Peppa and her mom were sitting in a brightly colored children's dental clinic. On the table stood a vase filled with multicolored candies. A sweet nurse was handing Peppa a strange candy wrapped in shiny foil. Peppa took it hesitantly. Wide shot of the waiting room. Other children sat motionless with identical frozen smiles. Their eyes were empty. Peppa's mom was talking to the nurse. Both of them wore the same unnaturally wide smile. Dr. Glenn was seating Peppa in the dentist's chair. His fingers were cold and clammy to the touch. His smile was too perfect, and his eyes didn't blink. The doctor peered into Peppa's mouth with a small mirror. His face showed delight. The drill turned on. Instead of a regular bit, a thin metal tentacle emerged from its tip. Peppa tried to escape the chair. The safety straps held her tightly in place. Peppa ran out of the procedure room into the adjacent X-ray room. On the active X-ray monitor, the skeleton of one of Peppa's classmates was visible. Close-up of the X-ray image. Instead of normal bones, white tentacle-like structures were seen. Peppa stared at the screen in horror, covering her mouth with her hand. Peppa was hiding in the sterilization room among boiling instruments. Rubber tentacles began crawling out of the sterilization machine. They reached toward Peppa's hands, trying to wrap around them. Peppa fought back with an empty glass flask. The door to the room began to open. In the doorway, the shadow of Dr. Glenn appeared. Peppa ran out of the clinic. Behind her, it looked like an ordinary medical building. At home, Mom was cooking dinner. Her smile would occasionally become unnaturally wide. That evening, Peppa was brushing her teeth in the bathroom mirror. One of Peppa's teeth glowed with an unnaturally white light. Black water from the toothpaste ran down the sink, forming a sticky puddle. The family stepped into a cozy workshop. The shelves were lined with dozens of ceramic Labubu figurines. On one of them, a crack was visible along the side. From the crack, thin black roots slowly crawled out. All the figurines on the shelves simultaneously turned their heads toward the visitors. Their smiles stretched wide, their eyes becoming hollow. Damp clay patterns spread across the walls, forming into distorted little Labubu faces. The workshop owner stood behind the counter. Behind her, all the clay Labubu stared directly at the family. The display case trembled, and on the cracked figurine appeared a wide, unnatural grin. The family descended into the basement. The walls there were coated with hardened, glossy clay, and the door to the storage room was tightly shut. On the potter's wheel stood an unfinished statue. Its features blended the face of a monster with that of Labubu. From the kiln, a scorched clay hand burst out and seized the statue. The staircase was crowded with small Labubu figurines, their heads turning in unison toward the people. Sticky clay squelched under the family's feet, slowly pulling them deeper and deeper. In the kiln's window, shadows flickered with enormous grins, as though someone was watching from inside. The basement wall cracked open, revealing a passage into a cavern of solidified clay. The underground hall was entirely sculpted from ceramics. In the center rose a throne. Upon the throne sat the Queen of Labubu. On her head was a crown of sharp shards. Her empty sockets were filled with tiny clay copies of the family. The family sank waist-deep into the soft clay. Around them wandered small, twisted Labubu, creeping ever closer. The family had already turned into porcelain figurines. They stood frozen among the ceramic decorations of the underground kingdom, while the Queen of Labubu smiled with her eyeless face. No subscribe. Nightmares arrive. An anonymous package stood on the nursery doorframe, a bright box. Peppa opened it. Inside there was no figurine. Instead, a bundle wrapped in sterile swaddling cloth lay there. A faint laughter emanated from it. Peppa unwrapped the cloth. It was a plush Labubu. Its eyes shimmered too wetly, too consciously. Peppa threw the toy aside, but moments later it was already lying in Evie's crib. By itself, the toy wouldn't let Evie go. The girl clutched it in her hands. The plush's eyes became alive. Deep, from its half-open mouth, a black substance oozed, thick, sticky. It dripped onto the swaddling cloth, soaking into the baby's skin. Mama Pig was delighted.
Look how much she likes it. How cute.
Her eyes glazed over. Pupils shrank into dots. She didn't see the black veins appearing on Evie's arms. She didn't hear the quiet whisper coming from the toy. The whisper sounded like the squeak of foam rubber. At night, Peppa heard sounds from the nursery. She entered. Evie was awake. Her eyes were wide open, filled with black liquid. The plush Labubu sat on her chest. Its tentacle-like arms had sunk into the baby's hands. Evie wasn't crying. She was smiling. Her mouth stretched into an unnatural grin, just like the toys. Black syrup was flowing from the corners of her mouth. Mama Pig stood in the doorway. Her neck was wrapped in cellophane tape. She was shaking her head. The movements were sharp, jerky.
Quiet. Don't disturb them while they play.
Behind her, in the hallway, a pile of empty boxes was stacked. They moved. Soft whistling came from them. Peppa stepped back. She stepped on something soft. Dozens of plush Labubu lay on the floor. Their eyes gleamed in the dark. The air filled with a sound, a quiet children's laughter, and endless rustling of cellophane. Daddy Pig brought home an old plush Labubu. Its fur was mangy and patched, with only one eye, a dull button. The fabric smelled of dampness and mold. The toy creaked softly as if it were breathing. Peppa took the toy without a smile. The house instantly grew colder, though it was spring outside. When night fell, the walls began to whisper. Labubu's eye lit up with a murky yellow glow. He started whispering dreadful words in a language impossible to understand. Wet shadows gathered in the corners of the room and slowly devoured everything. First the books, then the furniture. Outside the windows, the whispers grew louder, as if someone were circling the house. The lamp flickered so violently it seemed ready to go out. The air filled with the smell of burnt rubber and damp earth. Daddy Peppa, Zoe, and Candy stayed overnight at school. Flashlights stood on the desks. The children laughed, playing hide and seek. The lights began to flicker. Chalk writings distorted, letters twisted, crawling by themselves across the board. The laughter faded. Strange voices softly whispered their names. Red eyes flickered on the walls, watching every movement. Peppa felt an icy chill, her heart racing. Suddenly, a silhouette darted behind her. Red eyes stared straight at her. Peppa, Zoe, and Candy rushed into the hallway. The doors slammed shut on their own. The lamps flickered. Shadows from the ceiling and walls slid down, stretching into tentacles. They moved toward the children, intertwining and writhing. The children ran, the echo of their footsteps blending with a faint metallic hum. A silhouette flashed ahead, its eyes glowing red. For a moment, it seemed they had managed to escape it. The children hid behind the tables. The dishes trembled. The space itself seemed to breathe. For a brief moment, they calmed down, catching their breath, thinking the danger had passed. But from the corners, the shadows suddenly came alive, wrapping around Zoe and Candy, seeping into their limbs. Their eyes flared red, their movements turned sharp and unnatural. Peppa screamed as shadows reached for her from every corner. Peppa ran into the assembly hall. The stage was lit by a dim spotlight. Suddenly, the ghost of Madame Gazelle appeared, red eyes, a stretched grin. Zoe and Candy, with monstrous faces and tentacles, moved independently between the rows of chairs, driving Peppa toward the stage. The shadows merged into a dome around Peppa, coiling around her body. She tried to break free, then looked up. Only strange faces stared from the ceiling. The light went out. Darkness swallowed everything. Evening. Peppa Pig's family is in the living room. Peppa is playing with a new mirror. It is unusual, with a carved frame and slightly misty glass, but no one paid much attention to it. Peppa notices a strange figure in the reflection, a tall Labubu with glowing amber eyes and a mocking smile. She turns around. No one is there. She looks again. Labubu is back in the mirror, and now he is reaching out his hand through the glass. Daddy Pig comes over to see what is happening. He picks up the mirror, and Labubu's yellow eyes suddenly flare from within as black, oily liquid pours onto the floor from the glass. It spreads quickly, forming dark patterns and little shadows with bright eyes. The family panics and tries to escape, but the liquid comes alive and crawls toward them. It engulfs the whole house. Labubu steps out of the mirror. Mummy Pig tries to cover the mirror with a blanket, but Labubu breaks free, and the room fills with shadows and whispers. Huddles together, the lamplight dims, and the shadows creep up along the walls. Daddy Pig finds a flashlight and shines the beam into Labubu's eyes. For a moment, the monster shudders and pulls back, but his whisper echoes through the house. Labubu will not leave. The family looks around. Has the monster gone? They embrace one another. Peppa returns to the living room and gazes into the mirror. It is coated in dust, yet in the glass, a tiny amber spark flickers. In the dark room, a quiet, sinister laugh can be heard.